Welcome, everyone. I am Teddy Pins. This is Brent Cooper. He is the broker in East, and I'm the education director. It is May 10th, 2022, and today we're going to be talking about crucial conversations, negotiating and handling the tough conversations that sometimes can be uncomfortable or but very necessary.
And I love that.
I love them too. I love them too.
I do.
But so we want this to be interactive today, and we'll be sharing some materials. I already have a folder in the education folder in the toolkit that has some of the materials that we're going to be sharing too, or some of the points and things. But we want to make sure we answer your questions or situations. And again, for those that are on Zoom, if you want to include anything in the chat in particular of what you may have encountered or specific situations, we'd love to address those. But specifically, we're going to touch on some things, the biggies, and those typically around commissions, listing term,
Base commission,
we reduce your commission,
reduced commission.
shortage on buyer's brokerage fee or buyer's commission.
Yeah.
I know there's a fee, there's a company in town or that offers $1. Has anybody seen the $1 yet? Yeah. Check out his listing offer instructions, detailed. Yeah, I've talked to him actually. I called him and I said, I really want to acknowledge you for your offer instructions. He goes, wow, you're the only person who's ever called me and thanked me for anything. I was like, well, I don't love your commission structure, but that's something we'll talk about too.
Yeah.
So let's do you want to start with the reduced commission?
Yeah.
Does that seem to be the biggie?
Sure. I think the biggest piece with the reduced commission, well, first of all, I want to start by saying expectations are met when they're known. And that's a famous line from your mom, is it not? So laying out the expectations when you meet with the client and the buyer or the seller consultation, that's key right there. And having consistency in the way that you do it is big. So I think the biggest piece of when they're asking you to reduce your commission, it's your value proposition. Who all here knows what their value proposition is, and how does that make you different from the other agents that are out in the field?
Tell us yours, Brent.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
No, not at all. So I have what I call policy partnership guidelines. Okay. These are in all of my buyer packets, and these spell out how we're going to build a partnership. And it's all set up from the first consultation. Okay. So I do want to say at the bottom, the last part says brokerage fees. And it says base commission fee of $350 will be charged to all buyers and listing transactions, which covers transaction and processing fees. This fee is collected at closing. Broker commissions are non-negotiable. Broker commissions generally are paid by the seller unless it's a for sale by owner or seller has reduced broker commission, at which point the buyer will be responsible for commission. This will all be explained prior to submitting any offer. So the biggest piece is, again, setting that up front and making sure that they know what the expectation is. But I also feel telling them how you are going to set yourself apart is the biggest piece. So there's 5 tips. Who's here is taking Ninja? All right. So there's a great video there. Can we watch the video?
We can watch the video.
Okay. So there's 5 points of value. And I think once you deliver the 5 points of value, you kind of set yourself apart from what the other agents are doing out there. So the 5 points of value which are in this video are going to talk about enhancing the property, which you as the agent knows what needs to be done to maximize the price point. 2, it's a pricing strategy. Coming up with a pricing strategy that is going to set you apart and get the seller the most net for their property. Give maximum exposure, which again, in turn, gives them the max net that they need. Help negotiate to get the best offer, and then manage the transaction throughout. Once you nail down those 5 points, now you can deliver, now you can ask what you see is supposed to be. And if that's 3%, that's great. Some agents may go a little bit higher based on what it is. Do we need login?
We do. If you
Okay.
don't want to broadcast that, you can hand it to me, or you can type it in right here on this keyboard. Okay.
I'll let you do the techniques.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
So this video is about 10 minutes. And if you take a Ninja, You've seen this before, but if you haven't, it's great talking tools. And they're going to go over it. Larry Kendall's going to go over this video. Who here has been asked to reduce their commission? And who here has had a reason to fight back and say no? Okay, how was it?
It was
Yeah.
just like upfront, we look for two because I know.
Yeah. Usually they're asking for 1%. And what is 1% sometimes? It's $5,000. When you deliver what you could give over and make them more money than just that profit, don't think about the 1%, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to make much more than that 1%. Okay, so we're going to go to your value proposition.
Right.
It's about 10.
Hello and welcome to the Ninja Path. My name is Larry Kendall and I'm the author of Ninja Selling, and our goal is to help you increase your income per hour so that you can have a life. And we found that if you focus on 3 success keys, that will happen. Those 3 keys are your mindset, your skill set, and your actions. This particular lesson is devoted to helping you develop your skill set. You know, if you look at how people buy things, there's a 15% group that always shops the lowest price. This group really doesn't care about whether we create value or not. They're going to make all buying decisions based on lowest price. Then, of course, we have the 5% that they always want to pay the most. Now, why would somebody pay the most? Well, because they think they're worth it, or they think you get what you pay for. Maybe it's status or prestige, or they just want the best. But most people, their buying decisions are based upon value. 80% make all decisions based upon value, which is in their head a formula of price and quality and the relationship of those two. Sometimes we call that our value proposition. If you look at your value proposition, there's you, there's your prospect. Let's say that prospect is a seller, and your competitor. You're in competition for this listing. Well, your seller is going to look at both you and your competition through a couple of things. Number one, they're going to look at value parity. What are the things that both of you do? Well, you both put a sign in the front yard. You both create a brochure. You both put it in the MLS and upload it to the internet. You both hold open houses. So really, those are not very differentiating. What the seller is really curious about is, what is the value wedge? What do you bring to the game that's unique, that's different, in a way that's valuable to the seller? Now, what I have found is a lot of realtors are not really prepared to articulate their value proposition. This is a skill set that they haven't developed. So we're going to help you with that. And we're going to do that with an example of something that happened recently. This is Joanne here. She's a partner in a real estate company in Colorado. And she's on listing appointment with a seller named Bill. And she had sold Bill and his wife the home and has stayed in touch. He's a client of hers. And much to her surprise, when she's sitting with Bill and she says, Bill, what are 3 things you're looking for in a realtor? He looked at her through what she called laser eyes. And when we say laser eyes, Tom Cruise is famous for his laser eyes. So here we have, he looked at her with laser eyes and he said, Joanna, I'm looking for a discount. When a seller looks at you with laser eyes and says, I'm looking for a discount, are you prepared to articulate your value proposition and handle that, that situation? Well, Joanne did. She's an engine. So the first thing that she knows is this. From Steve Jobs and his secrets of presentation was first clarify the problem before you try to present a solution. So the first thing that Joanne says is, tell me a little bit more about that. And Bill says, well, homes are really selling fast in this market, and I don't think they're have to advertise very much. And I think for that, I deserve a discount. And Joanne says, well, what is your goal, Bill? And he says, I think that ought to be worth at least 1%. So now Joanne has gone to the next question and said, well, if you could wave a magic wand, Bill, and have this transaction go just the way you want, tell me a little bit about it. And he says, I'd like to be the first in my neighborhood to break $400,000. Homes have come close. There was one that sold next door for 396, others in the 390s, but nobody's broken 400,000. I think I have the house that can do it. So now has Joanne identified and clarified the problem? Yes. Her problem is 1% of 400,000 or $4,000. She has to demonstrate the bill, her value. She has to be able to articulate her value proposition. What she says next is solid gold, and you should memorize this question. We call it the value clarification question. She says, Bill, do you believe your home will sell for a fixed price? Or do you believe it will sell in a range of value based on the marketing and negotiating skills of your realtor? Bill says, you know, I never thought of it that way. But yeah, there probably is a range of value. You see, a lot of times sellers have never thought about that. In fact, you can tell that because have you ever heard a seller say, well, I think I'll give the listing to my niece. She's brand new in real estate. And she could use the business. What that seller is really saying is that there's a fixed price at which the house will sell regardless of who has it listed. And it really doesn't matter who the realtor is. Asking this question is powerful. And you should have this on the tip of your tongue. Do you believe the home will sell for a fixed?
All right, you want to take a picture of that? If you're in Ninja, it's in your book several places, but I would encourage you to memorize this.
This is key. And I also want to talk a little bit about the net sheets, because I do believe that the net sheets are what saves every listing I go on, from whether they want to list $25,000 over or they want you to reduce your commission by 1%. The net sheet spells it all out.
Price, or do you believe it will sell in the range of value based on the marketing and negotiating skills of your realtor? I have never had a seller who asked this question say, I think it's a fixed price. I've never had them say that. They'll think about it and they'll say, I never thought of it that way, but yeah, there probably is a range of value. And so Joanne says, my job is to get you at the top of, help you get to the top of that range of value. And I do that with 5 things. We publish your 5 points of value. The first thing we're going to do, Bill, is we're going to take a walkthrough of your property. And I'm going to point out various ways that you can enhance the value of your property through staging, through fix up, and so on, so that your property gets top value. Number 2, then we're going to sit down and I'm going to show you a pricing strategy. When you can develop a pricing strategy so that you don't overprice your property and scare buyers away, don't underprice your property and leave money on the table. And I'll show you that pricing strategy. Number 3, I'll show you my marketing plan, which is designed to give you maximum exposure. If we can get you maximum exposure in the market, we have found that you'll have more buyers, more showings, more contracts, and better contracts. Then my job is to help you negotiate the best contract. And many times the best contract may not be the highest price contract. It may be a contract that will close. And then, Bill, there are a lot of moving parts in a real estate transaction. My job is to manage those moving parts and help you get to closing on time. The fee to deliver this level of value is, and then whatever your fee is. And if you follow this plan, your home will sell at the top range of the value. Note, this home sold for $417,000 with multiple offers. The question here is, did Joanne demonstrate her value? Did she earn that extra $4,000? Bill wanted to be the first to break $400,000, and through Joanne's efforts and her 5 points of value, she was able to get him at the top of the range. And then she said something else, which I really love. If you're in a hot market, a hot seller's market, she says, as a seller in this market, your greatest expense is the money you don't make. Don't think about saving money in this market. Think about making money.
All of your sellers right now are saying, why should I hire you when I can sell it right? So this is a great one.
Yep.
He was focused on saving $4,000, and Joanne was able to help him make $17,000. Here's a bonus dialogue for you if you are in a hot market. Have you ever had a seller say, well, the market's so hot, I can probably sell this house myself? And I would say, you're absolutely correct. You don't need a realtor to sell a house in this market. You can put your house on the market today and you'll probably have multiple offers within the next 48 hours. You need a realtor to get you the highest value in the range and to the closing table on time. I was up teaching a ninja installation class in Toronto, Canada, for a wonderful company, Royal LePage Equity. It was interesting, we were covering this particular part of the installation on how you articulate your value proposition. And Amanda Z received a text during that portion from a seller that said, Amanda, want to talk to you about selling our house, looking for a discount. Amanda texted back and said, we're in class right now. I'm going to have a break for lunch here in a little bit. Can I call you at lunch? Arranged that appointment. At lunch, Amanda went out and called her seller. Now, in the class, we give a script of how to articulate your 5 points of value, and we provided that script to you in your handouts. All Amanda did was go out in the hall, call her seller, and read through the script. When she came back in after the lunch break, she raised her hand, she says, can I say something? I brought her up on stage and she told the story. She says, I went through the script with my seller over the lunch hour. I have the listing at my fee. And she says, the crazy thing, it's like the seller was reading their part of the script. So this stuff works. And what we want you to do is to rehearse your value proposition, rehearse that script with somebody sitting close to it. One of you be the seller, one of you be you, and just read the script, read your lines, and see what it sounds like to have those words come out of your mouth. Then what we would encourage you to do is, this is a script that you should memorize. You should know your value proposition. If you follow the value proposition, 5 points of value that we just talked about, the system will work for you. We can show you the ninja path, but you have to practice the script and you have to walk the path. We hope you got something out of this session. Thank you for joining us.
So what do you think, Terry?
Thoughts?
So how does this set you apart? So think about the 1% that they're asking you to reduce. How does this set you apart to show the full value to get the full 3% or 6%?
So you're moving the focus away from what they're saving to what they can earn.
Correct.
Exactly. Could you hear that at home for those on Zoom?
So that's what he said.
No, it's hard to hear.
Can you hear that at home, what Fred Lawrence just shared? Oh, said no, sorry. Repeat it again loud, Fred.
He's moving the focus, or you're moving the focus away from what the seller wants to say and moving it to what the seller can actually make by having you be their agent.
Yep. Could you hear that? I appreciate y'all bearing with us. We're still working out a few tech things as we're using a new hybrid camera up here. What the sales meeting does is a different platform. And so there's a reason why we do this, and we're just trying to make it a little easier. So awesome.
That was beautifully said.
Yes, it's more about the value they're going to make. And again, like Brent shared, or taking it away from what they're going to lose, because that's one of their fears is, what am I leaving on the table? And so they're looking at different ways that they can maximize. Right now, it's just like, supersize it all. Can we reduce commission? Can I do no repairs? Can we get their firstborn, stock tips, whatever? Yeah.
Usually on a phone call, when they call me for this appointment and they say, what's your fee? And I'll say 6%, will you do it for 5? I usually say, you know what, we're going to discuss that in my meeting. And I have an hour meeting, if not more, with every buyer and seller prior to us going into business together, because this is a partnership and they have to understand what the expectations are and what I'm going to do for them to get them the maximum money that they can get. So don't be afraid to say, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how that value is going to increase your profits. And that's the biggest piece, is making sure that you've got that ready when you go in to these conversations. Because if you don't, you're going to stumble and they're going to talk you into taking that less commission.
Yes.
So being prepared is key.
They might say, well, Mr. East Nashville's going to do it for 5.5. Well, Mr. East Nashville might know what his value of time is worth, but I can assure you that what I do, the fee for that I charge, my clients consistently remark that I deliver more value than they paid for. Okay. Other people might say, well, they'll do it for 5%. or they'll do it for 1%. I'm going to use a limited listing company. They're going to do it for 1%. Or we're going to sell no stress.
I love that.
No stress. No stress. So let's discuss the no stress model and the 1% here real quick. Is it really less stress? Because I'm bringing you a guaranteed, I can bring you plenty of guaranteed offers, okay? So when you dig into it, sometimes it's not as shiny as pretty as it is. This isn't at a disservice to what they do or what their model is, but I want you to understand because I think you potentially could be considering a short-sighted approach. So let's talk about it. And you should know it and be prepared for it before you go in there. So what does the no stress Mark Spain situation look like, right? What does a guaranteed offer really mean? Open door, the guaranteed. If you don't take your pony to the show, you don't know the market's worth. You're not only doing your seller a disservice, yourself and the comps and the neighbors, everybody loses in this situation because you are not building the market, right? If we all knew there was another way to buy anything at a deal or a cheaper, eventually certain things start to happen. The quality diminishes and there's an alternative market for that. So if you don't take the home to the market, if you're selling to pre-market buyers, even within your own company, you are leaving money on the table, not your sellers. Don't give me this was my seller's choice situation. It typically, in my opinion, most of the time, it was a lack of consultation from the listing professional as to why it was imperative that you go to the open market. Well, my seller just thought it would be easier. What was easier? I could send you to Fiji for the money difference I'm going to make you between selling within my friend in the company. It just affects everybody poorly, okay, including the marketplace. So understand that as part of the dialogue, not in a shame way, but like if they want to take it, we'll take it. There's always considerations to that. But really understand when you're going in and talking, this starts to get them to see you as a business professional and understanding it's not just about you making another $1,000 or $2,000. It's also out of courteous consideration to your neighbors and the market and your future. If you don't want the money, I'll happily make my fee, my competitive fee I make 6%. I don't get all that. The company gets that. I get a portion of that. We recommend you offer competitive market cooperative brokerage fee of 3% to the buyer's agent, but you can choose. Right? They are in choice of what they choose. And you'll want to have that conversation too. Questions about commission reduction? Y'all know how to handle it now?
I want to challenge everybody to look at those 5 steps, the 5 points that you made, and figure out where your value comes in under each one of those. And then create that conversation. There is a dialogue that went along with this. We'll go ahead and print and you can more than welcome to take it with you. And I would practice with some of your fellow agents on how to have those conversations. There's another piece in the Ninja book too, which I'm happy to make a copy of, and I'll show this to the camera as well. But this is a great little tool to show you where the money goes, your fee, and then where the marketing and then the taxes and the brokerage fees. Like by the time you get to this little tiny circle at the bottom that says net, that number is like reduced significantly. So if you're already reducing before you get here and you take everything else out, you're leaving money on the table. This is another thing that I'll print for you guys and give to you because I think this is a great little exercise.
Ron, I want to touch on your partnership guidelines. This is yours. You share this with your sellers, is that correct?
I do. It's buyers and sellers. It's in their packet.
And so just touching on a few of these things, can you give us some points to this?
Yeah. So really what I want to do is I call it partnership guidelines because that's really what it is. I want them to understand how we're going to work together and how we're going to make this a successful partnership. Getting to know each other is vital. We're going to spend an hour. I want to know you. You want to know me. Let's talk about it at the end. Let's figure out whether or not this is going to work. Obviously, time is of the essence. We need to make sure that we're meeting all debt timelines, especially in today's market. I will supply them with the schedule and work to keep everybody on key. I have a customer service program that I call the Works. It's welcome, offer assistance, respond, know, acknowledge, and then sincere. And under each one of those, I have what those keys are, and that's what I give to every single client. My office hours are 8 to 7, Monday through Friday. I'm usually off on Saturdays, but we know how that is. And then Sundays are from 9 to 6. If you call me outside of those hours, I will call you back. That is also on my voicemail. So if they do call beyond those hours, they know that I'm gonna return the call the next day. If it's a deadline, I will be up until midnight, whatever we need, I will get it done. Communications, let's keep everything in writing, schedules, 24-hour notice, please ensure, we want to make sure that we can get in and get the time slot that we need. In some instances, it may be a last minute, I'll do my best to get you there. If I'm out of town or on vacation, email is the best form of communication. There's another agent that will be assigned to you while I'm gone, so for communication. But if there is a deadline, I will be available to handle the deadline and make sure that we meet it. And then the next page, this is my favorite, it's the commissions.
I love this. Let's talk about base commission.
Yeah,
So what is the base commission? How do you describe it? How do you introduce it?
I introduce it, I tell every client that in order to use my services, I have a $350 fee. I do not collect that up front. I collect it on the back end at closing, which backed into your closing costs as outlined on your net sheets. And that includes processing and transaction fees. And I move on. I don't even open it up for questions. So that's exactly how I say it. And I've never been bugged. How many of you look at this Alta settlement statement and look at the village or the transaction fees on the other side? What have you seen? $495. I mean, I've seen $495. I've seen $600, $750. And keep that in mind too. Those fees help. Transaction fees here. You have a transaction fee of $150 per client. If you do 10 clients a year, that's $1,500 out of your pocket that you're giving away. Think about the money that you want to take in. Give this back to your buyer and seller. And at the end of the day, they're appreciative because they feel like they're returning your service, your value. And that's the biggest piece that I love about the base commission.
And give them something, provide wow service. If you're going to charge that, provide wow service, provide a wow experience, not just within that, but beyond that. Same thing with the commission reduction. If you're charging a competitive market commission, if your fee is 3% and someone else is doing it at 2.5 or 1 or whatever it is, budget of that 0.5% to create some wow opportunities. If you spend $1,000 on this client throughout the year on a couple of wow experiences, Witt had heard his clients were going to an Italian or a French restaurant in East Nashville for their anniversary. He had gone down there and he had bought, I think, a bottle of wine or some drinks for them or dessert. And that was just like, really? Like they told him that. He didn't have to announce that. So I think things like that, the money becomes secondary when the experience becomes of value. Remember Bobby's old thing? What would you pay more for that you could pay less? Toothpaste, toilet paper, phones, all the things, right? You can get it cheaper, but it provides value. And so we've got to really be clear in a sea full of a lot of agents, what is my value? Like we're all village agents, but what is my value? And so you want to get in touch with what are those things beyond just what the other people are doing? Just even Brent demonstrating this, putting his hours there, people see like the way to avoid the tough conversations is address them in the beginning. And it really helps if you have them in writing. Because then it's like, oh, this must really mean something. This is like, not just, he just made this up. The other thing is out of fairness and equal housing to all your clients and customers. We don't have any past clients, we just have clients, right? There's no past clients, they are a current client, always. So questions on retainer fees or base commissions.
Do you want me to go over that speech again? It's very simple. Have it written down, have it knowledge, and once you say it, just move on. However you want to collect it, if you want to collect it up front or on the back end, I do it on the back end, wrap it into their closing costs. Done.
They're not surprised by the form when you send it with the buyer rep docs because you already hit it.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about reduction. You've done deals before, Brent. We've worked together before. I know this is something that you shared, I shared with you, and I got away from this 0.5% discount.
I did.
You're my brother, my mother, my sister, and you've done a deal with me in the last 24 months, you're going to get a 0.5% commission. Well, we talked about that at the sales meeting. In the past, like people don't even equate a 0.5%. That doesn't even sound that great. Like you're making a 0.5%. That's lovely. That's 16%. It's thousands, right? So take again that money that you would rather be reducing and wow them with the experience. But what's a way we can give them loyalty is a flat fee. create a system for yourself, whatever it is based on what you want to do. This is what I had used in the past. And
I stole it from Teddy.
and this document is in the Google Drive as well. So you have access to all this to copy and paste with Brent's sample document here. But also the thing is be consistent. And so what you want to also share is that I don't want you to ever encounter any of my other clients at an event or somewhere and feel that you got a different deal than them. It's just not the integrity by which I run my business. And I want to be fair to all parties.
That's why I use this. And so my retainer, my base commission just went up to $350. I had it for $250 for a little while. Took it from $350 to $250, and now it's back up to $350. And I mean, it is what it is.
My buyers are $488. My sellers are $388. That's mine.
Yes.
Where is that available?
Where is what?
Where is that available?
When is this available?
Payable?
Payable. Oh, this is on the closing. This is in the special stipulations of my listing agreement. And it's reflected at closing.
Okay, I missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing the 5%. If you referred me 2 clients or more when you sold, I gave you 5% off, but I've changed that to just the flat fee. And Teddy had a great point yesterday of saying, look, if you do want to give a little bit more than 5%, give them this dollar amount off, but then throughout the year, wow them with some really big gifts.
Or not even that big a gift. I mean, they're all write-offs.
Wow,
Like
that
get him
was
a, Whit was giving him a Roomba or a Sonos cool speaker. I mean, you find these deals.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And who cares if they already have one? They could re-gift it, right?
Yeah.
It's just that wow level. The other thing I'll do is I tell them if the buyer is unrepresented, I do it for 5%. Everybody wins. And I cover that at the front end because I want them to know it's unlikely, but it's possible. And I want you to win, but understand this. I'm carrying an enormous amount of additional liability because I'm facilitating somebody else's activity. I always represent you. Understand that. If any buyer comes to the open house, I am always with you. I'm always with who I started first dancing with. But if an unrepresented came in and they wanted to sign unrepresented, I will gladly write up their offer that day. They will sign that they're unrepresented, but understand that commission that you've signed to that says 6% would be 5%. In the special steps, in this document at the bottom here.
I had that in here and I took it out.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Why do you charge more for the buyer versus the seller?
Yes. It's a fuel surcharge, friends, fuel surcharge.
Well, yeah, for me, it was photos, so I charge more on the listing side, so that's why I wanted to know. It's like I know I'm gonna have to pay for photos.
If I would recommend, I just make them all 488.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing virtual tours, I'm doing fly-throughs, might be doing twilights, whatever it is. I'm not guaranteeing I'm doing any of those things. I'm doing what I feel is appropriate for the market and for your home and to get you the greatest return. If I thought cable advertising or gorilla suit with pizza on the corner would work, I'd do it, okay? There's a reason why Spain and Ashton are doing so much advertising. They're in a fight with each other and it's just a war to get deals, okay? He spends over 100 grand a month on his website, friends. It's no joke, but it's because that type of business model, that's their business model. There's nothing wrong with it. It works. It's a great way for that. That's not what we do. Okay. You're not going to see me on the billboard in East Nashville because I'm taking the allocated money to sell your home and putting it back into mobilizing the real estate community to maximize your exposure, not to maximize me on a grocery cart. They tend to get that stuff, right? I'm not sending you postcards every month or, knocking doors or doing that. My time, that part of that fee to do your transaction management is because you don't want me managing the transaction from the paperwork perspective. You want me making personal phone calls to the top 10 agents in this market and trying to get them to show your property or introduce it to people they would otherwise not think of.
Emily, I would say one thing on the selling side, if you wanted to, you could split that commission in half. You could take half up front and half in the back to kind of offset the photos if you wanted to. So the base commission gives you that ability to split it either way.
Questions on commission, retainer fees, reductions?
I
Yes.
just want to give one testimony. So once you do this and you have it, I just recently experienced this. overlay between some overview, right? And actually, we closed a couple weeks ago. Ms. Martin, she's looking, she's looking for she. She looks at me. She didn't say anything a long time. She just, you know, you don't get your food. Because I had gone through my whole listing process with her, you know, last fall when we started.
Yep.
And she's like, well, you're supposed to get 6%. I said, no, Ms. Martin, I said, this is how we do it.
Split.
She'll do it, we have
Yep.
split and stuff. She goes, well, I would do that. You know, I would, she goes, you're well worth more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, you know, just having you say that, plus now I have an advocate. And she, every time I talk to her, she's calling me for a plumber for herself the other day, and she's like, I'm telling all my breach partners.
Yeah.
I said, here's the part.
You want to create a raving fan. There's a book, Raving Fans, if you haven't read it. Yeah, you have a raving fan. And so one way to say it, the way you can help me is step across the aisle. If you hear anyone talking about real estate, and ask them if I could reach out to them.
Yeah.
Don't give them my information. You can give them the cards and hope they're gonna have it with them that day. Not gonna happen. Hope that when they give your information, that person's gonna remember to call you. They won't, right? Their intentions are great, but you've got to train them how to refer you.
We have a question.
We have a question, yep. Is it mandatory that your buyer client pay the difference in commission if the buyer's agent is offered less than 3% from the seller? Or is it okay just to accept the buyer's fee even if it's 2.5 or 2 or $1? Carrie, thank you for your question. I'm going to answer this just very candidly. And the truth is, it depends how you set it up.
I didn't get the question.
What's the question? Sorry about that. I'm trying to cover a lot in Teddy fashion. So, is it mandatory that your buyer client pay the difference in commission if the listing agent is offering less than your agreed upon commission in the buyer's rep agreement? So I modified the question a little bit. Do y'all remember on page 1 of the buyer's rep, there's a space that says what the buyer agrees to pay? Correct. What do you all put in there?
Depends.
It depends. Okay, what does it depend on?
Depends on the buyer's budget, how close I am with them, and if they can afford to do it.
If they can afford to do it, okay? Anybody else? You put 3%. Okay, anybody else? 0? Does anybody put 0?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for
No
your
shame.
honesty, truthfully. A lot of people put 0, some because they just don't know, really? Like they're just like, oh, that's a 0, that's not for me. Yes?
Aren't certain loans where they can't, are there any loans like FHA or VA? Do they have any stipulations on commission?
Of commission fees? Do you know the answer to that?
I don't think there's.
Okay.
I don't think so.
That's not-
It's not a not
I think
allowed.
it is.
That's not.
Great question, though. Can everybody still hear us at home with the mic turned around? Thumbs up for those playing at home. Everything's wrong with your thumbs up. So the thing is, let's talk about this. This is very important. It's happening a lot, right? And there is an agent that is offering $1. And so if you want to work for $1, that's going to be what you work for if you don't stipulate that in the buyer's rep agreement. Now, what I would encourage you to be mindful of, anytime you're making commission distinctions between parties, you are opening yourself up to liability for fair housing scrutiny. If someone was to audit your file and they said, well, why did you do this for this person and this person? And there may be a fair housing distinction between those two parties, you could be in trouble. And that's what we're really trying to hedge against. And so I appreciate, your considerations to that, but I would just caution that and offer that you might want to be mindful to that. You could always potentially change it after, but I put 3%, I put 3, and I explained to the buyer at the front end before we start showing property that sometimes they're being offered differently. Is this in here too?
It's in here too.
Oh my gosh.
So it says broker commissions are generally given by the seller of the property, unless it's a full sale buyer. The seller has reduced buyer broker commission, at which point the buyer may be responsible for the commissions. This will be explained prior to any offer being submitted. So at that point, when we're writing the offer, they'll let them know, hey, it's 2.5, just understand.
Or you just say there is a 0.5 difference that will be accounted for my fee. It'll be on your closing. At our offer price, it will be this amount. Now, let's go back to your net and cash out of closing. Get back to the big picture so that they can see the totality of it rather than like just focusing on that. It's not like I'm skimming over it. I want them to see it in full transparency.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like to avoid surprises, so instead of, at offer submission, I'll usually look through anything I'm showing them. If I see that they're offering less, it's a conversation every single time.
Agreed.
This house, just FYI, before you negotiate, we fall in love, they're only offering X.
That's
So
right.
You would need to make up the difference. I want you to be aware just in case.
I've had people say, skip it.
Yeah.
I've had people say, skip it. So for those that couldn't hear that at home, Robbie said that before he goes and shows that house, after they set up a tour, he'll tell them in advance, this one's, offering 2.5, there'd be a half point on your side, there'd be a 1 point on your side. There's gonna be 3 points minus $1 on your side if they're paying $1, okay? Have it in advance, it's real. And there's a lot of belief that buyers agent compensation is going away. It will not be paid for by the seller, even though it's all paid for the buyer, because there's no commission if the buyer doesn't buy the home. That was just fancy math of being able to say, the seller pays my fee, okay? It will be that likely the seller will only pay their side, and if they want a buyer's rep, they will pay their side, as they do now, but you should get them comfortable about how the math works, so that they understand it's coming in the seller's column, but it's really paid for by the buyer.
And I just had that conversation with an investor.
Good, yeah, investors.
She's bought multiple properties through me, and she's like, she's paid full commission. So
Nice.
she gets it.
Nice. Yes.
Concern for me in some cases is when you're working with buyers that don't have great access to funds.
Yes.
They're qualified to buy, and this is why I do this.
Yep.
In some cases, they're qualified to buy a house, and I want to know if this is going to be a fair housing thing. But they tell me their budget.
Yep.
And they say, in this market, we understand, Joseph, you spelled it out great, that we can only bring these amount of funds if the appraisal is short.
Yes.
Now, in a worst case scenario, which we might run into now of being under contract, it would crush them. It would financially crush their savings. And then I would be a piece of shit to kind of ask them for that money because they would be in the red just starting off in their first time home buyer. How would you address that when you're working with buyers that are seriously on a budget?
An answer that Brent, you have a suggestion?
That could be a tricky one. You could talk to the lender to see if the rate, like the down payment could be adjusted, but in some cases you might have to make that distinction. And I hate to say that, but then again, what would you do? How would you adjust that? It would be an amendment to the buyer rep, changing that percentage. But usually there's sometimes you can't like.
So in those instances, I'll put 0 on the rep agreement, but I tell them, look, if you find something for sale by owner, we are going to amend this agreement because I can't work for nothing.
Yeah.
I would be cautious with putting 0.
I'd put 3 and then the other way, rather than go.
Correct.
Not
The
accepting that.
Because if you did get in that bond, they could simply say, no, you said 0, it works for free.
And if you did, sometimes working for free can be made up in other ways, right? Referrals and lawn mowing, babysitting. I'm just kidding. So there's other means, we work in a barter system, but no, truly like referrals. Like set up an agreement, like if you can give me, you guarantee that you give me 2 referrals by this time. Now, you're not looking at trade for that per se, it's just good faith, right? It's just goodwill. Excellent,
I
thank you.
definitely do that. I mean, if there's any type of discount, it's do me a favor, give me 2 referrals.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mind taking them out to dinner and asking for that.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
We're gonna do, obviously, this conversation needs to continue when you have more, but we're gonna spend another 5-10 minutes. I have a handout that I'll give to you, but I wanna cover some points, because these are a lot of things that we had regarding other things that, objections and tough conversations, but I think what's really clear about when the time comes for one, do not send a text message, okay? It is common that we're using this now and people just don't understand the phone, but ask them, could we get on the phone at a convenient time for you? Is this an easy time for you? I don't say, are you sitting down, but are you in a good place to talk? Are you in a good place to talk knows something's going down, right? You ever gotten the nod on Friday? Can you talk? Oh, here we go, just start packing your stuff. Honor the state your client might be in. Emphasize that you're on your team. Use we. instead of you. Reassure them that you'll help them overcome the obstacle. They feel confident you'll have a game plan moving forward, right? Have steps, have it all. You've heard the objections a million times. Just don't wait to be asked, how's the market? Will you do it for 5%? Well, you know, you're done. You're done right there. Too many ums or wells, you're done, in my experience, right? Be honest and direct. You might want to protect their feelings. You're not doing anybody any favors, family, friends, clients, all the things. By telling them that you all know up front, you'll build trust and help them feel empowered to moving forward and arm them with all they need to know. I really believe in writing and cover it. Do you send that document your
Policy guide, partnership guide.
Your partnership.
I do, and I always say we. It's never you, me, it's we. And at any point, one of us could terminate this agreement. At any point, we could terminate our partnership.
Yes.
So it's that understanding of too. We may not agree with me, I may not agree with you, and we can terminate it. That never happens.
Yeah, we want to create a good experience. We. Yep, all the help. If you make a mistake, not that you ever do, but I have maybe once or twice, try to not get defensive. Even if the client gets really heated, try to, if you need some coaching around that, there's plenty of resources. Just own it, apologize. I love this. How can I help you feel comfortable moving forward? Right, just put that in your notes. And create a little note, if you will. If this becomes uncomfortable, create a note in your phone. It's called Tough Conversations. Commissions, retainer fees, mistakes, just so you can give yourself a little quick pep talk. You're like, okay, it's all right. It's all right. Like, we got problems. There was an old document that somebody recommended sharing, the 88 things that can go wrong with a transaction. I'm going to give you this form. It's just like taking a flight. When you take a flight, how many things could go wrong before you get to your destination? Think of how many people are involved in taking a flight. From the people that built the website and the apps, did those work? Your confirmation numbers, security, baggage, all the things, right? Luggage, flight people, pilots, the plane, the mechanics. I mean, it's endless for all those things. There's plenty of room for problems. I will let you know when we have problems and you want to take this piece of paper out. I'll say we got an 88, appraisal short. And we'll talk about what we do with that. Just know that, like, I got this. Just sit back and have the peanuts toast. I'll let you know when it's time to buckle up and get out of the body. Those analogies sometimes can be helpful for people to understand the amount of the value proposition of what you're really managing. Because that's what you are. You're the airline. You're not the pilot, you're not the luggage, you're all the things. Yeah. Questions? Yes.
Well, this is another comment.
Yes. Loud
I'm
crowd.
older, a little older than some of the people in this room. The art of the conversation.
Yes.
When you're talking to your client, when I have my buyer or seller consultations, again, like Teddy said, it's better to have it face to face, but also there is something called art of the pause. Don't get nervous and start talking 9 miles an hour when you're having these discussions. Simply state, whether it's about position or whatever, and stop and look at them. Give them the opportunity to say something. And a lot of times you can tell from their body language, okay, we'll move forward. And a pause isn't as long as you think it is.
Yep.
But when you start, you can hear yourself, and I do it a lot. I'm like, okay, you need to slow down because you're talking 90 miles an hour.
Yep.
That's an indication of nervousness. And you never want to come across nervous to your clients. They're looking at you as the leader of this whole team.
That's right.
And you have to exude that confidence. And I've seen this with some of in my family, and I'm like, they'll prefer to send an email or a text versus sitting down to have that conversation because they cannot even look someone in the eye. And you need to look them directly in the eye.
They're looking at you as a trusted advisor.
Correct.
That's what we are. And so I think the more that you have your policies and procedures and you know how to put down,
Correct.
the more that they're going to respect you and the more that they're going to move forward.
But and you find that if you do use those physical looking people in the eye, positive, it centers you and you exude that confidence that maybe you feel like that you lack. You know, they always said, you know, what is it? When you fake it till you make it. That's kind of what you're doing. But you can get centered, like when you say with meditation, take deep breaths.
Yes.
That's what you're doing. You're setting the flow of that conversation. And it may not be as tough as you thought it was, because you've said it.
Typically isn't if you're prepared, and you can call it brokers, us, or friends to get yourself in that mind space. But I think having that note, probably the beginning of that should just say, take a deep breath. Right? Do I understand the problem? We've got to define and understand the problem before we just try to start solving things and speaking.
And I was in sales and marketing for many years before I got into real estate. And I'd go call my distributors and I would have scenarios that we already knew were going to be, you know, we got a price increase or whatever. I would sit in the car and I would have it written out what I knew their objection would be and also what my response would be. And just knowing that in my head, I can have that conversation and not get thrown off track.
Yeah.
Because some of those businessmen I was calling, they were true assholes,
Mm-hmm.
but you just had to have that conversation. Sorry.
No, this is what we're here to do.
But there is an art to conversation that I think sometimes we forgot.
Agreed. There's plenty of resources, books, and things on that. If you're not comfortable with it, there's plenty of. Just lean into the space that you're uncomfortable so that you get more comfortable with it, so it doesn't feel like such a problem, because it really does keep you between a lot of your goals and the earnings.
And that's what I would say, each president in the office and partner with agents, role play with that. Do what they do, collect information from that, on how to overcome these things. That's what it is. And Nielsen was a big one.
And if the obstacle's out of your hands explaining the situation, you want to feel like you're giving a full picture of what's going on. I like this. Tension's running high. Tell me more about what you're hoping for. Tell me more about what you're hoping for. Write down their concerns. That's a biggie. They really believe. Fred Lawrence, answer your phone. Write it down. It really helps them to understand or believe that you're taking this serious.
Right.
Could you slow down a second? I want to grab a piece of pen and paper, even if you're on the phone. I want to make some clear notes here. It's important to me that I get all of your points down. Just that diffuses a lot of things. Obviously, it seems obvious, but I think when we get in the moment, sometimes we get a little loose in the terms, especially sometimes when we're dealing with other agents as well. Tensions can run high about that. After you deliver the news, make sure you give your clients time to respond to what you've told them. That for that pause. Don't talk too fast or over them. Allow space for questions, follow up. Put yourself in the shoes of their clients. Your relationship with your clients is ultimately a human relationship. The best thing you can do is practice empathy. Anybody have some points or other questions about tough conversations that we want to cover before we wrap up today? Those at home, online, or here? Yes, Jessica.
When you're working with the seller and listing consultation, you've expressed all of your points of value.
Yes.
They still come back to you and say, it's just still too much. I need you to do this at 4.5% to 5%.
Yeah.
Will you put the ball back in the seller's court respectively? And let's say, you sell insurance for a living, or you're a teacher. Would you work for less? Is that too abrasive?
I think, like you said, it probably depends on the context of my relationship with that person.
Sure.
I try to avoid the asking them to put themselves in my shoes, but I've gone there.
You've done it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've gone there, and I'll say, for one, right, already with inflation, at 10% higher, I have to be mindful to my costs and considerations. There's not many people that are getting up for less than what they did last year. I mean, even everyone pretty much is charging premiums, surcharges, and things. So they haven't adjusted our rate for inflation. Now, we get paid percentages based on the sale of the home. I mean, I know that can look expensive, but ask yourself this too. Are you making more than you expected to make, or does it just always fluctuate based on what's relative? It goes back to that statement that you heard in Ninja. Do you believe the price of your home is fixed, or a range of value based on the skills of negotiation and marketing of your realtor? If it's fixed and you believe I'm just a commodity, then I think we're off to the wrong start and I haven't demonstrated my value. Because you just believe that we just put it on the market, it'll sell, and it will. You don't need me to sell your home. Do you believe the value that I provided beyond just getting your home sold is worth the exchange for 1 to 1.5%? You know, I'd ask them that. And I'd say, this is what I work for. This is my fee. You know, the other people, if that doesn't work well for you, then maybe this isn't the right fit. I don't know. Don't be afraid to lose it. You know, some people are like, oh, listings are coveted. I can get 3 new buyers out of this. But if you're going to cave on protecting your value, how well do I trust you to protect the value of the sale price of my house? If you can't defend your value, how can you defend the value of my house?
And sometimes you have to say it's partnership.
Yeah.
That's the other little thing, right? Just be willing to walk away. no matter
I'm
the
willing to walk
circumstance.
away. Gotta have to walk away. No one to hold them, no one to hold them. Yes, Robbie?
That is the nugget, right? Like,
Yeah.
that is the answer to, well, this other agent said they were doing this, great. Do you trust that agent is not even willing to fight for themselves, to fight for you and getting your home sold? I'm gonna make you as much as I possibly can, and hopefully make up that difference for you with the cost, and also provide a better experience. So you can trust me and pay what I'm worth, or you can go with that other agent, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's your house.
Yeah. And don't be snarky about it, right?
No,
But
not at all.
yes,
That-
yes.
That is not how I work.
I have to do the snarky reminder for me sometimes.
That is to go.
Yeah. Look, do windows work great? Did you put them in your home, Robbie? What'd you put in your home? What's that? I didn't even know that they're so fancy, friends. So Pella, like if you wanted to, people will pay for Pella windows. Why? The name, so you get the name,
The
They do get good service.
reputation, they have great service, and it's a lifetime warranty of the window, not the homeowner. So like, when you sell it, they still warranty the window. So Joseph, I appreciate your question so much. I really, that's when we really get to it, is like, if they can't protect the value of their own service, how are they gonna protect the value of the price of your home? And beyond just the price they're offering, like, what are you offering compared to the other homes and things like that? All right, it's 11:39. Any other questions before we wrap? We're gonna do a follow-up to this. We have a lot more. I have some printouts of the things that we talked about, some things we addressed today. In the Google Drive, you will see that there is also a folder under Crucial Conversations where you have Brent sample guidelines, commission objections, skills group materials. There's some other things in here as well that we recommend from a pregame ritual, things that you need to focus on. So focus on cost results, some dialogues. This is really, really good stuff. And
This is what I was talking about.
yeah,
Talk about your feet.
already in the drive. Yep.
It's already-
All that stuff's in the drive. Crucial conversation notes that we talked about today, and then I printed out for you. And did you grab those up pretty much? There's an issue, no problem. Well, guess what? We're going green today. It's all in the drive. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all. Have a great day.